Good evening and welcome to the April 19th, 2022 Goffstown Budget Committee hearing. We'll be starting off with the Pledge of Allegiance. Richard.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. We'll start off with a roll call. We'll start with Lauren and work our way around.
Lauren Dukas, present.
Melanie Renfrew-Hebert, present. Excuse me.
Samantha Kearns, present.
Stacy Belmore, present.
Richard Fletcher, present.
Bill Cordis, present.
Richard Manzo, present.
Jeff O'Brien, present.
Kelly Boyer, Select Board Rep.
Frank Hobbs, present.
Joe Alexander, present.
Howard Markowitz, School Board. Evelyn Redmond, present.
All right. Thank you very much. All right. First item up on the agenda is the approval of minutes from March 22nd, 2022. Did anyone have a chance to review the minutes? I'll also entertain a motion to accept the minutes.
So moved, Mr. Chair. Motion to approve minutes.
All right, I have a motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
Second from Evelyn. All right, all in favor?
No, I have a slight revision, just one little typo on page 3. Near the bottom, second paragraph up, it says school board rep. It should be D at the end.
Oh. Good catch, Ellen. All right, before we take a vote on the approval of minutes, are there any other edits we should make note of? All those in favor of accepting the minutes as amended?
Aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? All right, unanimously approved. All right. Now, we do have quite a bit of discussion here for old business regarding the election of the vice chair to the budget committee, as well as revisiting some of the committee rules and procedures, as well as other board appointments. Want to give a little bit of background. Richard, I know you have discussed this in general. We've also consulted with NHMA. If you want to kind of give a quick little
Yeah, sure. So, effectively, since as long as I've been on the board, and perhaps longer than that, since Chairman Mike Smith, we've been electing a chair, and the chair has effectively just picked the vice chair. That procedure was sort of adopted from the select board, but we've received guidance from the New Hampshire Municipal Association that there is an election required for all officers that the budget committee chooses to have. And it can choose to have officers like a vice chair or like a secretary, with the one caveat being that if you choose to have these officers, you need to elect them. And that's something that we've now caught, unfortunately a little bit too late, but now that we're up to speed on that, we all want to get that corrected.
And in your packets with the agenda.
Excuse me, Chair.
Oh, yes.
Now caught, someone from this committee brought that to your attention, correct? It wasn't something that was caught by these two representatives, correct?
Correct. Actually,
Thank
it
you.
was caught by another budget committee member who brought it up to the town to investigate, and discussions that ensued.
Thank you.
Do we need a motion then to make it formal?
We need a motion to make it formal,
The vice
as in.
I believe so, yes.
So I would
Nominations.
go through a nomination and voting
Right.
process
Yeah.
rather than a motion to make what we've already done.
I'd like to motion to
official.
make this a voting option for the vice chair, please.
Seconded.
All right. Any discussions? Joe?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm not opposed to this option. I would just say, for the record, this is guidance from the New Hampshire Municipal Association, not necessarily like set in stone. I've read the RSA. I think it's open to interpretation. I hate when other groups tell us what we should be doing as our own governing body. So I'll be voting no on this, but I don't think it's a bad idea.
Okay. Stacy?
I'd like to say I'm really disappointed that we've gone several years with it being appointed. I feel like the last meeting, it was decided beforehand what was going to happen. So being new to this system and what's happening in the town, I am disappointed that it went this direction and we had to have somebody point this out to us. So I am really in favor of us voting for this. So Joe, I do disagree with you and think that we should have known better as a committee that this was the system we should have used. So I think this should be a precedent for us to continue to follow how we should do this in the future. So that's how I'd like to go.
I absolutely agree.
Yeah.
And when we look at our rules and procedures, that we all kind of sign off on, these kind of procedures will be added to that.
And Jeff, you were fairly voted in, and you deserve that, right? But I also think the second person, the vice chair, should be voted in.
Yep. Any other discussions around this? We'll move to a vote. Ellen?
Knowing this now, how does this committee feel about doing a formal nomination and second and voting? Then I would ask that if that's something you want to do, that it be done for the record. I don't feel comfortable as a rep, not an elected person, so.
That's what the motion was.
Yeah, that's
the motion.
Yeah.
The motion was to move it to a vote by this committee for who the vice chair will be, and then I'm assuming the CIP representative and also the school board representative.
Yep, that is another discussion.
I won't jump the gun.
Sorry, I didn't hear someone say I nominate, so.
I just motioned for the vote.
Okay. All right, and that was a motion from Stacy and seconded by Richard. Correct. Okay. All right, all in favor of accepting the motion of having a committee vote for vice chair, raise your hands. All those opposed? With Joe Alexander opposing. Any abstentions? No abstentions. All right, motion carries. We will have an election for a vice chair. And we can move to this business now. Oh, yes, Laura.
I just have a nomination, Mr. Chair.
All right, I will move to accepting nominations for vice chair.
I would, like to nominate Melanie Renfrew Hebert for vice chair.
I'll second that.
Have a second. All right, seconded by Stacy. Do we have any other nominations for vice chair?
I have a question. So our current appointed vice chair was Richard, correct?
Yes.
Are you still interested?
I'm still interested, but I really only care what's best for the town. I just want to make sure that we get the process right.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to
Yes,
nominate
Frank.
Richard Manzo.
Frank, we have a recommendation for Richard Manzo. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Seconded by Joe Alexander. Are there any other nominations for vice chair? All right. So now we have two nominations. You want to ask, open this up for discussion? You want to ask a series of questions? And then we can kind of move from there.
Mr. Chair, can I
Yes.
make a recommendation?
Yes.
For the chairman's position, we gave each a minute or so just to say why they'd like to do it, so I think we should give each of them an opportunity to speak freely before we ask questions, if that's okay.
That's a great idea. Yeah. All right. So Melanie and Richard, you guys are free to speak. Richard, would you like to go first?
Sure. I've been interested in serving this committee as vice chair for a while now, particularly because I felt that I had a good handle on parliamentary procedure. Robert's Rules has been something that this committee has followed since I've been on the board. I think it's been in there for longer than that. But I've got a good handle on the order of motions and the rules behind them. In this particular case, especially around the school board, around the vice chair selection. You know, we received the legal guidance from the New Hampshire Municipal Association. I've seen this committee handle it through a selection process by the chair before. And as soon as I heard that was the interpretation of that particular RSA, I kind of questioned it as well, but then I read into it myself, and I really do think that this is the fairest way of doing this. And I've worked closely with Melanie over the years. I've served as secretary on the trust fund trustees while she's been chair, and I think that really either one of us would be qualified to hold this role. And I appreciate your consideration. Thank you.
Thank you, Richard. Melanie?
Hi, thank you, Mr. Chair. I've been interested in town governance since we moved to this town about 8 years ago, and have been filling roles in the community as on the trustee of the trust funds, as well as helping out with other groups in the community. I'm interested in helping the town to grow and to be fiscally responsible. And I think that following as a vice chair would give me an opportunity to study the role of chair even more closely and to potentially step up into a role at a later date. And thank you for your consideration.
All right, thank you both for those great speeches. Do we have any questions for the vice chairs that we want to entertain here before moving to a vote?
Richard, how long have you been involved in the budget committee?
I have been involved for about 4.5 years at this point. I was nominated to fill a vacancy in November of 2018.
Okay, Melanie, the same question.
This will be my second year in the budget committee.
Thank you.
Lauren?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. May I just make a comment, if you will, not really a question? Is that all right?
You can save your comment till after section. Are there any other open questions for the candidates for vice chair? All right, with no further questions, we'll take a vote by show of hands for the vice chair role. Please raise your hands for a vote for Richard for vice chair. And 1, 2, 3. That's 5. And please raise your hands for Melanie for vice chair. 7. All right. So Danielle, my numbers are 7 for Melanie and 5 for Richard. Is that what you care?
We have 13
like
members?
counting's off.
Yeah, we have
I did
13.
not.
Yeah.
Oh,
Okay,
so
thank
we
you.
have an abstention,
I
okay.
vote on
At
the
last state, okay.
Yeah, yeah.
That's what I was trying to figure out.
Yep. And then 1
Let's not do
abstention.
that again.
I was counting on my fingers.
Yeah. I was like, this isn't it.
It was a test.
All right, great. All right. Well, welcome, Melanie. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
All right. In this particular process for electing a vice chair, Danielle, who do we work with to make sure we put that in the official rules and procedures, and then once we iron all these out, we can pass those around for everyone to
Yes.
approve?
Yeah, absolutely.
Great. All right. All right, moving on. The elections or nominations of the subcommittee members. Again, this is something that's kind of been roughly appointed. There are, in your packet, we do have some formalized procedures for this, kind of laid out, following either what the school board does, what the select board does. Or if we wanted to come up with our own, we can as well. So I'd like to just kind of open this up for discussion and what we think would be a good process for, electing subcommittee members.
I just would like to make a mention on the way that the select board does this, is that we open it up to people who might be interested in that role, because some of these things take more time at specific points throughout the year, and also having an interest in it is important. So that's typically what we do, is kind of give everybody an opening to volunteer, and then either have further discussion or the chair makes that appointment. But just keep in mind, if you are interested, CIP is busy for the summer months, whereas the Space and Needs Committee representative, as we heard, probably won't have much more work to go, but just something to keep in mind.
And Ellen, do you have anything regarding the, say, from the school board perspective?
Yes, the people who have an interest express it to the chair, or the chair will ask board members to express their interest, and then the chairman appoints. And then, once that's done, then we vote to affirm those appointments and have discussions. So I do want to mention what Kelly was saying. The building, is it called Building Committee on here, Space Needs, has one more meeting. So I don't know if you want to appoint someone new or not, but the people that were there from the Budget Committee, who were doing a summing up and coming up with the recommendations from that committee to the school board. So there'll be other opportunities, I'm sure.
Yeah, not sure that one's quite done yet. Yeah, and again, this is for not just those subcommittees, in case there are other subcommittees that need to occur. At least we just have a formalized, kind of policy procedure for that. All right, so open to kind of discussions on what this committee would like to kind of follow for a process. And we'll add that in addition to the election of the vice chair to our official kind of committee procedures and policies. Ellen, sorry, first. Evelyn?
I would like to see this committee, the chair, solicit interest from the members to see who would be interested. I know that CIP can be quite intensive. It is a fairly long process. And it does, like Kelly said, entail most of the summer.
Lauren, you had a question?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. That was going to be my recommendation as well. I was also curious as to last year when we solicited interest, our chair at the time, Mr. Alexander, had asked for volunteers, and then it was, I believe we emailed interest. So I'm not sure if we even had, or if historically this committee has multiple interest, or if it's oftentimes the person that shows interest is really the only person. So I'm not sure exactly how that went last year, as far as I wasn't privy to how many people volunteered, if it was more than one. But I think it's good to solicit interest. We should, that's the direction that we should, I think, go in.
Okay. I agree.
From what I remember, only, I think it was one for each position or
Right.
something like that, or something very close to that. So.
May I ask and follow up? Is that fairly standard? Again, this is only my second year.
I only ran the committee for 1 year, so I can't speak to other years.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea. We can put that in. Solicit interest, and I'll also take soliciting interest for these positions today, or when you get for next meeting, that we can revisit. So we will go with solicitation of interest for these subcommittees, and then we'll move to A.
Mr. Chair, my only question is, when is the Space and Needs Committee meeting? Do we know?
We don't have a date yet.
I don't think, there wasn't a date for the last
And I
meeting.
think Danielle had a question also.
Danielle?
I just wanted to make sure that once you finalize, we make an official motion and second on that process so I can capture it.
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. Ellen?
For that purpose, I would suggest at the organizational meeting, when we elect our chair and vice chair, who's ever elected chair, open it up for volunteers to the various committees at that night, and then the very next meeting, do the assigning. And then I would suggest that the full committee vote on those nominations. That the chair makes nominations, and then the committee vote on it.
So we'll solicit the interest, and then I'll
And then
put
the
forward a
next
nomination, and then vote on it to
That-
confirm.
That's my suggestion. That makes it formal, it gives us a time frame to do it by, and it gives everybody input. Just a thought.
Correction, wouldn't
Yes.
we make nominations, not the chair?
Well, for the subcommittee, we would solicit interest of those who are interested in the subcommittee,
And you would make,
and then I could bring forth. 'cause
Bring forth the
like I said, it may be just one,
nominations
right?
that he wants,
So-
and then-
follow-up question. Is there any reason why we can't get solicitation now?
I don't.
I think what
believe so.
Ellen was saying, though, was the difference between either people come forward and the chair chooses, or as a committee, we vote on who does it. So to your point, no, I don't think there's any reason why we can't do it now, but Ellen, is that correct? That's what you were saying,
I
is you
would suggest
prefer.
that right after a chair is elected at the organizational meeting, that the chair solicit interest. It can be verbal, it can be by email, whatever, and then the chair bring forward the chair's nominations for those representative spots. The chair, so it's kind of a mix, is what I'm suggesting. A chair's nomination, or not really an appointment, but a nomination based on the input you've gotten, the person's gotten, and then the whole board, the whole committee here votes on those. This committee, I'm suggesting we don't do the same that we do for chair and vice chair. That once we have a chair, the chair, I'm gonna say nominates, because I'm suggesting the whole committee vote. Or we can do an appointment, I don't care which way it goes. Just seems like, seems more formal if we vote on what the chair brings forward. That's my only, and it doesn't matter to me. Okay, that's just been my experiences in a bunch of different committees and boards that I've been on. There's different ways of doing it, and they're all fine, I guess.
Yeah, exactly.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just
Stacy.
saying that we're already so far behind because we already thought we had people on these committees that maybe we should solicit it now to see if there's people interested in these positions and see if we could vote now, unless people disagree with that we can get these people already chosen for these committees because usually this committee doesn't meet again until, last time we didn't meet
Till
until
May.
September. I think on here it says May, but, if we're going to do that, we should probably get people ready now. You all could totally disagree, but I'm just putting out there now, let's maybe get people ready for these committees, especially where this Space and Needs Committee could meet in the next 2 weeks, and we want somebody probably ready for that.
Yeah, absolutely.
It could be totally, you all could disagree, but I'm just saying.
Danielle has a question.
Danielle?
CIP also starts in May, so I think.
Right.
Yeah,
I
we
think
wanna
what the
get
chair's
there.
trying to do is just get the process
Yep.
identified, a motion made, then maybe move into that solicitation process following.
Yep.
So what's the motion we're looking for?
Which process would follow?
Yeah, we gotta pick a process, and then we.
Maybe
move
Samantha knows.
forward. Yes, Samantha?
I think for simplicity's sake, it would make the most sense to just elect this in the same manner that we just elected vice chair. Where we take nominations, or people, I don't know if people can nominate themselves. That seems like it would be okay.
No.
And then,
Robert's rules, no.
oh, so then people nominate other people second that, and then we vote from there, just like what we just did for vice chair. So I'd like to motion that we do that,
An election.
that we do an election.
Okay.
Second.
We have
Oh, there's
lots of
discussion.
questions as part of that here.
Go ahead.
Around here. Richard, I saw your hand up first.
We want to make sure that this is the process that we follow at the organizational meeting, not after the organizational meeting, though, because we're playing catch-up right now, that's all.
Right, yes.
Lauren?
So what, the motion that was just made was not to solicit interest. The motion that was made was to nominate. So we're disregarding, so the motion you're making is you're not interested in soliciting interest. Correct? That's how you said it? I just want to make sure that we're voting and seconding the correct thing. Because the discussion we had was, we'll solicit, which means you can't nominate yourself, but we can solicit. I am interested in CIP.
Yes, I mean, I would say that we would solicit interest.
Okay.
And then, or in the case right now where we're playing catch-up, you could solicit interest right here. You could take nominations right here, and then we would vote right here.
Okay, because the nomination and solicitation is different.
Yeah, that's different. Selectwoman Boyer?
I just again, I heard your motion. I just again would like to emphasize that it's important to take in people's consideration of time and ability and interest in serving on these boards. So I'm going to vote no on your motion, because how are you going to nominate me if you don't know if I can do it or want to do it? I'm just saying that out loud. I personally, I don't think that's the way to go.
I mean, couldn't you say no if you were nominated?
You could, but
And
why
then
not
you
just
don't have
ask
the
people if
time.
they want to do it or not, you know?
Joe?
Thank you. I'm also going to be voting no. I think there are members of this committee that aren't present that may be interested in the positions. In the past, the chair has had this ability. I don't think that it should change necessarily. I think that we can add language in there saying that the board has to approve the appointment, but leaving the power of the chair to solicit on their own time is probably the best move, I would say, in my opinion.
Okay. Any other discussion? Lauren, did you have a hand up? No, just, okay. Melanie?
I just wanted to say that I would also vote no, but only because of the wording. I think that anyone who has interest should go through the chair, and then the chair should bring all interested parties' names to the table to then be voted on.
Okay. Joe?
Just to respond, I don't think the chair necessarily has to bring all interested parties. I think the chair just has to bring forward their own nomination. And if the committee decides that they don't accept the nomination, then maybe another name could be brought forward at that point.
Stacy?
So this is my question. If we do this to the chair, then you get to appoint who you want? So if we're going to do the motion to solicit, you then get to appoint who you want, correct?
No.
So if we motion to solicit, you will then bring the names to us to vote if we want to do that?
One name.
One name.
So you,
But you choose the name you want to bring to us. So if 5 of us email you and say we're interested, you choose the name you're going to bring to us.
Yep.
Yeah, I
And then
don't
we
agree with
can-
that. I think if there are 5 people that are interested, we should have the ability to choose who of those 5 have the ability.
Well, that's the point, though, is that if he brings someone that the majority doesn't think should do that, then we're going to vote against that nomination.
But are we going to know the 5 people that
Yeah,
put
that
their
would be
names
the
in?
question, would be.
Well,
How
I
are we
mean-
going to know the 5 names that put their name in?
The President of the
If it's-
United States appoints a cabinet and then it's approved by a committee, but the committee,
Joe, we're
the
not the
Senate
president,
can't.
we're
No, I
Goffstown.
know, I'm saying, but the Senate can't just bring forward their own people.
But we've already messed this up. We've already messed the system up. So we need to rectify this. We need to make this a fair system. So we have an ability to hear the people out that want this little committee, and there's people here that want this. So is there a fair way to do this? Can they show their interest now, and then we can maybe vote at a later date? I think that this is the system of putting 5 people's names into Jeff's hands, which, Jeff, no offense to you, and then he gives us one of those names, which he's already appointed, who he thinks should be in that chair. We don't know who these other 4 people are. So I want a fair system of voting if that's what this is. This is Goffstown, not the United States, so.
Yep. Kelly?
I think there's a way to do both of those things. Solicit interest. Who wants to be on the CIP committee? You raise your hand and say whatever you want to say, and then we vote, just like we did now. Per Robert's rules, there has to be a nomination in that, so someone can say, okay, great, I'll nominate this person, this person, this person. Is that not, then we're doing it out in the open and transparently and in the moment? Does that kind of capture everybody's concerns?
Yes.
I think so. Richard?
Yeah, I think if we were to mix the methods here between taking volunteers in an open forum and then selecting them behind closed doors is probably not the right way to go about it, just because of the fact that that's getting a little too close to a traditional election held behind closed doors. If it's going to be open, it should be fully open. If it's going to be a selection process, it should be a selection process, a private selection process. We shouldn't have, some people stating their case in public and then being selected in private with no sort of discussion from anyone else. And in the same sense, we shouldn't have people put their names forward and then one of them gets voted on in front of everyone as an all or nothing. So I think that we should probably just do an election in the same way that we just did.
Interesting.
Okay, we have a motion and a second on the floor, though. Oh, sorry.
Have any further discussion? So we have a motion on the floor from Samantha.
Would you like me to restate that?
Yes, can you please restate it? It's been a
So,
session.
my motion was that we elect committee members via election. How we take nominations and then we elect them as a committee.
Seconded.
Okay. So seconded by Richard. Any further discussion before we take this to a vote? We did a good job there. All right, all those in favor of Samantha's motion to have the subcommittees be elected by majority vote, please raise your hands. All right, we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 in favor. All those opposed? All those abstaining? All right. Motion carries 11-2. That the subcommittees will be elected by the committee. Okay.
We're doing that now?
Yeah, since the CIP is going to be visiting, excuse me, they'll be starting to meet. Probably want to get this one out of the way. Ellen?
If I may, Mr. Chair, this is my second meeting in a row being here, and there's something going on this committee that, in my mind and my sense of things, I've never seen on this committee before. I don't like it. It looks like there's a big power play going on, and if we are going to be electing everybody to do everything and not allowing the chair's prerogative of appointments, this could get pretty bad in the future, depending on who's on the board. Not just these people, us, but anybody else. I think it's setting a precedence that could end up not being good, not only for us, or the select board, or the town. And that's why I voted no. The chair, someone who's chair has a prerogative of doing certain things, and they should be allowed to do that, in my opinion.
Thank you, Ellen.
Ellen, I'm sorry, may I respond?
Yes,
I'm not
go
sure
ahead.
what you're referring to, but wasn't that your recommendation to then vote on it?
After the chair puts forward his or her choice of people, but not to have a vote on anybody who wants to do it.
Oh, okay, I see. So
That-
you just
very
wanted to vote
different.
on one
I want
person versus everyone?
I feel the chair of any group, any formal group, has the prerogative of, and that's the way other groups that I've seen operate do it. The chair has that prerogative. The chair can also solicit people. If someone doesn't say, I'm interested, the chair can also have the privilege of saying, Joe, not Joe, do we have a Ron here? Would you be interested in this? I know you've done this in the past, that kind of thing. And then come forward with who the chair feels would best represent and who the chair feels best working with in those responsibilities.
Right.
That was my thing, that the chair had that prerogative to do after soliciting input from various members. I can tell you, it's just my opinion, that's why I voted no. I think there's something going on this committee, and I believe it's power play. I don't know any of you. I don't know anybody, but there's something going on here, and I'm not very comfortable with it. And this voting part, I think, is a part of that. And that's just my opinion. And take it or leave it if you want. But there's something going on here, and I warn caution going forward if that's what we're going to be doing. Just me, taxpayer person. Okay.
Yeah. Thank you, Ellen. Stacy?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Well, Ellen, I'd like to respond. Welcome to your second meeting.
In a row. I've been
Yes,
here
in a
before.
row. I think this committee has actually gotten along very well, and we've done a great job. And I think what some of us are concerned about is that there was some stuff that happened last meeting that a lot of us missed. That it's kind of a disappointment that there was appointments that should have been elections, and we weren't really aware of that. Mr. Chairman wasn't even aware of that, so we're kind of behind the ball right now. So I don't think that we're being mean to each other. I think we're trying to play catch up, and we're trying to figure out how to right the wrong that maybe happened for a few years. So I'm sorry if you feel uncomfortable in this meeting, but this group has gotten along very, very well, and
Just know I'm not uncomfortable at the meeting. I sense there's something undercurrent happening.
yes,
two
because
meetings
last
in a row.
meeting, there was 2 appointments that were made that wasn't correct. So we're trying to right that right now, and I think this committee has done well together, and we respect each other, even the new members that have been here. We're glad to have them here. So the undercurrent that you feel, maybe because you're new here, it isn't because that there's any power play going on. It's
Not a
simply,
little bit.
well, Ellen, I'm trying to like say this to you
I
in
hear
a
you.
respectful way,
Right.
that it's just to right the wrong that happened the last meeting, and I think we did that, and Richard was very respectful in that, and I respect him for understanding that this was how it needed to happen. So there's nothing nefarious going on, Ellen.
So
Thank you,
wants
Mr.
to do
Chair.
CIP. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Lauren, you have a question?
It is more also, I just wanted to speak to the point is, this is revisited every year.
Yeah.
So we're not setting any kind of, I think the only precedent would be setting is, let's just elect people. How do you think that person would be involved? And that does, I guess, make it a little more difficult for new members to come in the first year and go, I don't know who I'm voting on, but we can try our best here. Hopefully anyone that runs for the committee is an involved member of our town who's been trying to watch meetings and pay attention and see what's going on in our community, what we're just all trying to do to help out and work. But it's not like this is set in stone for 20 years. I mean, we'll come back to this if the committee indeed says, that didn't work so great next year. It can be revisited, I believe, in the organizational meeting.
All right.
Mr. Chair?
Richard?
Yeah, I just want to say I don't feel slighted by this in the least. I think that we're just refining our processes. And the thing that made me uncomfortable was the blending of these 2 options that were presented to us, not the selection process. In the past, names have been solicited in private, and the selection's been made in private without any sort of public scrutiny. And that's one way of doing it. It's perhaps fairer to the applicants to do a more technical job because CIP and the Space Needs Committee and just any subcommittee are more technical jobs. So I'd rather go with an open process or a closed process rather than a partially open process. I don't think that that's fair to anyone.
All right, I appreciate it. Yeah, my sentiments are that it should be open, right? We should all be working together. We are one committee, after all. You have different voices, different backgrounds, different opinions on things, but that's what makes a committee great. You can all learn from each other. And I think from what I've heard here, everyone really wants to do the right thing. Everyone wants to be the most helpful, look out for our town, look out for the best interests of all of our townsfolk. So that's why I think bringing this back up to the committee and voting on all of this so that we can have this formalized kind of rule and procedure going forward. We're all playing by the same rules. Everything's out in the open. Hopefully that helps build trust between everyone here so we can really do the hard work. Like this is, little technicalities. I think all the hard work's going to be coming up in the long meetings ahead during budget season. So if we are going to do this as an open process, since Robert's rules, you can't really nominate yourself for these subcommittees, what's the kind of best way to get interest of who's involved, who wants to be involved in the subcommittees?
Um,
Seems like we got like a kind of like a catch-22. If we're going to do
Yeah.
an election, how do we
I think that
solicit.
this is one of those situations where we know each other and we know our skills. I would nominate people and ask them to accept it based on whether or not they think they can make the time requirements. It may be worthwhile to take a few minute recess so that people can look into those schedules, so that they can determine if they'd be willing to accept a nomination.
I'd just like to ask
Evelyn?
Danielle, when is the CIP, when is that starting? May?
It is starting this May. The proposed start date, I think, is the middle of May. I can look that up.
And do we have a
I think
day of
the chair
the
is
week?
waiting for final identification of who's on the committee
Mm.
to finalize that. But it does alternate opposite of the planning board. So it is every other Thursday, basically, for the months of May, June, July, and August. Sometimes they'll hold their start to be the beginning of June, but it is twice a month.
So the planning board will be meeting on the 12th and the 26th of May, so CIP would be
I think
the 19th, and then it goes into June.
I believe so, yeah. I'll just double check right now on the proposed schedule that was drafted by their subcommittee liaison.
All right, so it's every other Thursday for the months of basically through the summer, May, June, July, August. So that's a pretty considerable commitment with summertime, people vacations, and so forth. So if you do want to have interest in this committee, your summers will be cut a little short. Or at least one night a week.
Can I ask a question? Could
Stacy?
people solicit within this meeting? Could we ask if people are interested right now?
I believe Richard suggested maybe we take a quick recess. Can we do that? And then we can solicit.
We can't solicit within the open forum of this meeting?
Well, I would say we should solicit within the open forum because
Right.
we're all going to be in a room and the public's not going to be able to see who we're
Right.
talking
That's
to.
what I'm
So
asking.
I'd
So
say
if there
that's
are
the
people
best way to do it is
interested-
talk about it right now.
Yeah, the idea for the recess was so that we could determine for ourselves if we would be willing to accept that nomination, not to solicit the interest. If you have a few minutes to look at the possible meeting schedule, you might be able to have a better idea
Thank
of
you.
whether or not you could attend those meetings.
Agreed, Richard, thank you. Yeah.
So in the open forum, should I,
Are you looking for a motion
Yeah, I was
for
gonna
a
say-
recess?
Yeah.
is that what we're at
Yeah.
here?
I mean,
Motion for a recess to look at our schedules to determine if we're available for these meetings. Is that what I'm saying?
All right, motion by Stacy to take a slight recess to check schedules. Got a second by Evelyn. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. 1, 2, 3, 4. 2, 3, 4. Keep your hands up so we can have a count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 in favor. All those opposed? 1, 2, 3, 4 opposed. Motion. Any abstentions? No abstentions. All right. Motion carries for a quick recess. All right.
Turn the power on.
All right, welcome back to the Tuesday, April 19th Budget Committee meeting at Goffstown. And for the record, Joe Alexander has left the meeting. And we will continue off with the topic of the subcommittees. Just as a quick show of hands, who would be interested in joining the CIP committee, which meets starting June 2nd every other Thursday until September 8th? For reviewing schedules, we have Lauren. Is there anybody else interested in this position? No? All right. So Lauren is the only one who's shown interest in this, so if we'd like to take some nominations for the CIP committee. Melanie?
I'd like to nominate Lauren Dukas for the CIP committee. She has impressed me greatly since our very first budget committee meeting with an endless list of pointed and very relevant questions on every piece of material she has ever gotten. I think she'd be an asset to the CIP committee for this committee.
Thank you, Melanie. Do I have a second on Lauren's nomination to CIP? We have a second by Evelyn. Any discussions or questions for Lauren to take on the CIP committee? No?
No
All right.
nominations.
And there's no further nominations? All right, we'll take this to a vote. All those in favor of Lauren being the Budget Committee representative to CIP committee, raise your hands.
Am I allowed to vote?
You can vote.
All those opposed? All right. Any abstentions?
Ellen.
No, I did vote.
Yeah, no, she did. Yeah, all right. It is unanimous. Lauren is our Budget Committee representative.
Can I just, thank you very much. That was very kind. I just will continue to ask questions and show up and just do our work and just helping out. So thank you very much, Melanie, and for the committee. I really like how we're all working together tonight, as we have been since I came on last year. So thank you.
Great. And we will add this process to our rules and procedures going forward. The next committee, which is the Space Needs Committee, which again probably only has one more meeting potentially left. We already have that seat filled, and that charge. I don't know if we have to take another vote regarding that since it's still ongoing.
Who's currently in the seat?
Lauren is in the seat.
Oh,
I like to work.
Yeah.
Well,
I just want to make sure, because you're also,
Yes.
as a member at large.
Yes.
I didn't know if it's not appropriate to hold both. I mean, we already have the chair as the committee, as the community member, so I didn't know if it was somewhat redundant. Yeah, just one more.
Hey, the more minds, the better on this one.
All right.
I'm not sure. I guess if we were following the procedure, we should take nominations.
Anyone else interested in?
Or if there's anyone who's interested in joining the School Space Needs Committee for their one meeting left, take any
Or who knows?
interest. Or who knows?
I have a
question too.
I have
Samantha.
a quick question. So the Space and Needs Committee representative, when does that person, last year they got appointed, correct?
Mhm.
When do they get appointed? I guess when did you get appointed or elected?
I was Chairman Alexander solicited interest. I believe I was the only person to show interest, and same with the CIP committee, correct, last year, I think is what he said. So at the first meeting, it was, is anyone interested? We volunteered. He said, all right, if anyone else is interested, email me. Then I was appointed our second meeting of that budget year for, and he said there was only one person that had shown interest. And I believe that appointment stands until the committee is dissolved. It's a school board subcommittee that the school board put in charge to look at potential growth options, where the students were coming from, and what our possible facilities needs would be in the future. It's been for a year.
And then there's only one, like a couple more months left of school, because then it gets reelected in September, or?
It's a
Do you want me to-
temporary
yeah,
committee.
It's an ad hoc committee. Okay.
So it's only active until they don't need it anymore, and they only have one meeting left, so there's no need to carry that on continuously.
It's the school board's, it's the school board's committee. Was just the budget committee representative on it. So I was placed there, but it was a large committee of various Goffstown stakeholders.
I would just say I'd be comfortable with the both of you just staying on for the last meeting and not having a new election based on one more meeting. That's just my opinion.
I'm fine with that. Any discussion, or we want to take it to a vote and just leave the School Space Needs Committee as is? Evelyn?
But I would like to make sure that any other committee appointments that need to come up in the future be handled the same way we've been handling these as elections.
Yeah, absolutely. And that was part of this whole discussion, really, is to really flesh out what that process is and put it into our official kind of bylaws and policies and procedures.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to make a motion that we leave the existing Space Needs Committee representation the way it is for the remainder of the
All right, motion by
project.
Melanie.
I'll second.
Second by Stacy.
Thank you, Melanie.
Any discussion? I think we're good. All right, we'll take it to a vote. All those in favor of Melanie's motion to keep the Space Needs Committee as is, raise your hands. All those opposed? Any abstentions? All right, motion carries unanimously. All right, old business is finally out of the way. Now for new business. We do have a save the date for the New Hampshire Municipal Authority Budget and Finance Workshop. We have a date of Tuesday, September 20th. It is an all-day class from 9 to 4. This has generally always been covered by the town for those members who are interested in going, so the cost is covered. You just have to be able to get the kind of whole day off of work, if you will. So those who are interested can email Catherine and get your name on the list, and as more details become available, get you enrolled and notified. Yes, Evelyn?
I'd just like to ask Danielle a question. Do you have any input with NHMA about the content and/or scheduling of that workshop?
That is their statewide workshop. In the past, they have done 2 different workshops, just to be able to offer different dates and time combinations. But historically, they have held it on-site where they do their presentations, and they provide lunch typically. Like they held one, I think, up in Waterville Valley, and then they held one at the Manchester, the Dairyfield Country Club in Manchester.
Okay.
That was in 2019. When COVID happened, they went remote temporarily and waived the fees. This year, they're discussing doing a hybrid, so that's kind of why we still have to be determined details. But they do pick their own schedule based on the availability of the presenters.
Okay.
But if there is a topic that we want covered, anybody can always make recommendations for that.
Because I just have a comment about the fact that in the middle of the program last year, because we were all doing it on Zoom, there was quite a bit of content that really didn't apply to Municipal Budget Committee. And at the end of the session was something that was more relevant to us. So I found that to be a very wasted hour-and-a-half time frame to sit through stuff that really didn't apply to the municipal budget process. I thought it was agonizing. Till the end. And the end was, what they gave us that applied was very good, but they gave us a lot of state stuff that really didn't can
That's good to
apply.
know. I can definitely let them know and see if perhaps they should consider splitting it in the future, because this is, when they do this budget workshop, it covers everything, including SB2 towns, it covers charter towns, cities, so they do kind of bounce around a bit. So perhaps they might consider splitting that into, different sessions, or maybe a morning session for this group and afternoon for some others. So I'll pass that along to them.
Thank you.
They used to come to the town and put on something just for the budget committee at one time, way back, a long time ago. Maybe they still do, maybe they don't.
Yeah, we haven't heard of anything like that, but that could just be by availability of presenters, but I can
Probably
definitely ask if they had
somebody
something.
asked them to do it.
Yeah, we could ask to see if they could do something.
And it just pertained to the budget committee, so it was only, 2 hour or 3 hour session, it was all over.
Melanie?
I did find on the online presentation, there was a lot of opportunity to ask specific questions, and they did try to get through and answer as many of those as they could. Disappointingly, no lunch on Zoom.
Should menu like a pizza.
Something, yeah.
Great. So again, all those who are interested in doing that budget workshop, feel free to reach out to Catherine, and we'll get you on the list. All right. Next up is the upcoming meetings. I'd like to thank Selectwoman Boyer for kind of using our budget meeting time slot as a time that obviously works for everyone, is to kind of see if we can conduct the tours, which, they're important because, due to the CIP process, there are a lot of considerable projects that are going on in town, a lot having to do with buildings, vehicles, other projects that are important to, really have your eyes on and to kind of see, the conditions that, here's the condition of the DPW station, the police station, the fire station, and being able to visually tie those kind of budget items to, the real world, tends to be, I think, a lot more helpful. So we're still working on kind of firming up the schedule and trying to prioritize those in terms of who's got a lot of big CIP items that, are going to be coming up during budget season, so making sure we're getting all of those facilities, right on the list. As of right now, kind of trying to still work out schedules. Danielle, I don't know if you have any update regarding that.
So I've received feedback from all of the town facilities, and I know Scott is coordinating on the school facilities as well. Based on the discussion from the different groups and with the chair, it sounds like we might be doing probably like 3, maybe 4 meetings to see everything, or as close to everything as we can. But we're going to try and match them up by physical location. So it could be a town facility and a school facility in the same night. It's just for the ease of getting from one place to another. We don't want to, be losing the caravan of folks as we move on. So.
And that has happened.
And it has happened.
This has happened. Yeah, I've done the school the school journey on a Saturday, and yeah, we definitely started off with a lot more people in the morning than we ended up with in the afternoon.
So we're just trying to finalize those to get some dates selected, and then we'll be announcing those through the email process that we normally use.
Okay, great.
Are they traditionally on Saturdays, or are they normally like on Tuesday evening?
Well, last year was a kind of a COVID year. In the past, we've done the schools on a Saturday, like on the weekend when the kids aren't there. You got the hustle and bustle, a little bit easier. And I believe like the fire and police and all those were also on.
They were
They might
kind
have
of
been in between. They were random.
Yeah, it was like sometimes Wednesday, sometimes a random day of the week. So this year, the chair has asked that we try to keep to Tuesdays, since that's this committee's current schedule, and so that hopefully the availability of majority of folks will line up. One question we did have from our department heads to put forward to the committee, I suppose, is start time, especially for the facility tours. I mean, luckily the day's getting longer, but if there's an outside facilities such as one of the parks or something like that, we want to make sure to hit that while there's still daylight. So I don't know if there's any possibility of starting the tour meetings a little earlier. I don't know if that's something you guys want to discuss.
I'll put it out to the committee if they're okay with, if we need to start, say, at 6, maybe an hour earlier, if that works, or if there's any other
I know
issues
in the
with that.
past we did that, and then we would kind of get like the agenda, and then if someone could just meet us at one of the places, then we did that, or, if you can't make the earlier, just come when you can, sort of thing.
No,
And that
like
was
we have
fine.
multiple, so
Yeah.
like have a kind of dedicated time slot.
Right.
say
We used to
from-
do a couple
From
in a
6 to,
night.
yes, from 6 to 7, we'll be at the police station from
Right.
7:30 to, yeah.
Just kind of meet us.
I'm sure Scott's aware of this and will part of the considerations, but there's, just about every school, there's a grounds, it's not just the building. There are a number of things in CIP that have to do with the grounds of each of our schools. So I think, if at all possible, daytime to see just where things are going or what's looking like the school bus turnaround at Mountain View.
Yep.
I'm sure we'd all like to see outside what's happening with that.
Yeah,
The ball
absolutely.
field at the high school, what's happening. There are things happening in each of our schools. A lot of them are on CIP. Daytime would be the best, I would think. I'm sure Scott will be aware of that.
Yep, yeah, we've had some discussions around that. So if there are significant CIP items on, say, for a ball field, and we want to actually go see that, or if there's some space problem and we're looking at another portable, being able to see, where you put that. I think those are, absolutely paramount to, I think, this committee as well as the community to be able to see that. Stacy?
If possible, if we could know ahead of time, more than like a week for those of us that maybe have jobs that could be, I could definitely take time off if it's a daytime thing, but I would need to know more than probably a week in advance to do that. I know a lot of you are retired, and I'll be there someday, hopefully, but I'm not there yet.
It's wonderful.
I'm sure it is. I'm not there yet.
Keep telling you, Stacy.
I know, you do, Evelyn.
And we could have some ongoing conversations with the department heads. I think kind of highlighting, here are your main CIP items. If it is outside and we want to catch daylight, we'll try to find a time
Ahead
that
of time.
works. If we have to start a little bit earlier, and then try to get the schedule, I would say, really done up as upfront as possible, just to
Perfect.
accommodate, if people need to schedule childcare or need to get out of work early, or I used to work in Boston, having to drive for 2 hours. That 15-minute window
Yes.
of leaving could make all the difference.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Understandable. Evelyn.
I have a request for the September meeting, that when we start our budget orientation and that we are able to do it on our own timeframe and not in conjunction with the Board of Selectmen like last year. That was not a good, not a good.
You're not the only
process.
person who's mentioned that.
Thank you.
Just to mention, the select board is doing it separately. This town budget orientation, Danielle and Scott are gonna put on for the budget committee, just to give you some insight, but as of right now, there's no plan to joint meet, and I don't think you have any plan for that either, so.
Good, thank you.
That was a COVID-sensitive
It was
decision.
a disaster.
Even though I wasn't here for it, but it was.
I was not here for that either. Okay, well, that's good to know. So September, when we do kick up into budget season, we'll be doing the presentation by Danielle and Scott. Just kind of give everyone, obviously, a refresher as going into it, instead of doing it up front in the summer. And, summer rain happens and we would forget it by the time budget season rolls around. I figure getting it right towards the end as we're getting into the swing of things will at least keep it jogged in on our minds a lot better. Samantha.
So I'm concerned about this May date because Goffstown Old Homestay is May 7th, and then the 28th is Memorial Day weekend, which means there's only 2 Saturdays in May. And so I just am.
We're looking at Tuesdays for most of the
Okay.
days.
Sorry. Never mind. Take it back. That's what we were doing with schools and Saturdays, and I was like so focused on it. Okay, never mind.
All right.
Where's Fred, the under me?
All right. Any other business from the town or Selectwoman Boyer? Anything to add? Ellen, do you have anything to add from the school side?
Oh, okay. They got handed out, right?
Yes.
Okay. It's just an update on the school district's use of the ESSER 2 and ESSER 3 grants and the refund from Health Trust. These items that you see on there, you've heard all this before. There's nothing new here, but that's an updated list. I don't know where I put mine, but it's okay. 99% of those, I've got it here somewhere, are on CRP. They're listed as project keeping them that's going forward. The one item that is not a CRP item and that we're using it for is a new math program for our schools. And it is fluid. The whole process is fluid. This is not written in stone because as specifics come in and pricing, formal pricing comes in, there'll be adjustments. And so we're doing our best to utilize these funds. We have to get approvals. Certain things are and certain things are not eligible for the ESSER grants. So Scott's on that, and then the management of the grants and reporting out and all that. But we are looking at, as we've said many times to you folks, using these funds as judiciously as we can to help offset everything and address our CIP needs that we have listed there. Okay?
Melanie?
I have a question, Ellen. Actually, just a reminder, if you could. I seem to recall during the presentation that the Health Trust refund, the large sum of money, that was after some money had been returned to individuals who pay in, right?
Okay.
I just wanted to make that clear.
Yeah, last year, you pay a premium.
Right.
Okay, I'm sure the town got a refund too. And it turned out to be paid more than was needed because COVID people weren't going in for surgeries and all that kind of stuff. So the employee gets a piece of their input back, and then district and town got a refund as well.
Thank you for clarifying that. We have a few people who might not have been here for that presentation, so I want to make it clear that all this money wasn't all that they got, that some did go back to the people who
to the
paid premiums.
individual employees who paid into it, they got back as well.
Okay, Lauren?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Ellen, I know you said it's a fluid document. The balance of refund from the Health Trust, refund for $53,000 and change, and the balance of the ESSER 3 at $18,000, are those just being kind of held at this time
At the
for if
moment.
things come over budget?
Absolutely. And if things come very under, like you see at the bottom of the first page, actually, I just had a discussion with Scott, I said, what is this, others? And those are options. If things on the top, these are things we can move in. If something comes in over, we can bump something out and put something else in there. That's what that's about. And we're looking at, because these funds are available 22, 23, 24, I think, the years are on there. So we have to be careful.
Well, for the ESSER, right?
Yeah,
The
the
health is
ESSER,
just the
yes, the
refund,
ESSER,
that's just
yes.
not a payable. No.
So it's really nice to be able to see CIP things, not have to go into our tax bill. But so that's it. We just provided this as an FYI. Thank you.
All right, I appreciate it. Thank you, Ellen.
Thank you, Ellen.
All right, do we have any other business to discuss? If not, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to adjourn?
We have a
Second.
motion to adjourn by Richard, a second from Melanie. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed? Any abstained? No? All right, motion carries. Thank you all for the great work, great meeting. And we are done here tonight. Thank you.
No, Fred.